What's the plan?
Destiny.
GSTL.
Don't get in my way now.
Welcome to the GSTL. It is time for MVP against StarTale. It's going to be an incredibly epic match. I could not be more excited.
Today is going to be awesome. We had two teams yesterday already in the GSTL that so far this season didn't make an appearance, with TSL and of course the Prime team. But today it's going to be StarTale and MVP, and this is going to be great. StarTale is in such a good shape these days. The roster, of course, is now a lot bigger than last season. And last season they already looked pretty scary, but this season they are,
I mean, let's just talk about race distribution. I feel like StarTale has the best race distribution of any team. They have the best Zergs, Processes, and Terrans. They don't feel lopsided. It's not like, they're kind of weak in Processes, or they have too many Zergs, or where are their good Terrans? They actually have good players from each race, and I think that's what makes them such a strong team.
And of course, one thing that is really good for StarTale these days is that Life is completely tearing it up in the GSL. I talked to Curious numerous times about it, and he said he's so relieved that he finally has another Zerg player in the team, that he's not the only one that all this pressure relies on. Because after July retired, it was only him. He was the only one. Every single time they needed a Zerg, Curious had to step into the booth, and now a lot of this pressure is gone.
Yeah, it's all gone. Don't have to worry about July Zerg back there anymore either. Everything is set. We've got Life. We've got Life.
Yeah.
We have him. He's here in the studio.
I asked him earlier, and I was like, okay, so you win this GSL season? He's starting to laugh, and he's like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
He's really confident.
Let's take a look at our team info so you guys can see the race distribution and some of the players there. Now, look at StarTale. 8, 8, and 8. You know, if you look at MVP, of course, their race distribution is quite even as well as 4, 4, and 4. But if you think about it, that's twice as many options in the exact same ratio. 8, 8, 8 versus 4, 4, 4. Think about that.
It's of course a little bit insane how many players they had in Code S this season. Here we have Squirtle and Life being the best players of the team when it comes down to the win rate and to the contribution. And on the other hand, it is DRG, the final boss of MVP.
Yeah, he is called the final boss because in older seasons he would always come out last, sometimes just win the whole thing for his team. But in recent times, sometimes he's come out last and failed. We'll see if that's going to be a little bit different. He wanted to take his team to Busan last season, where his hometown is, to win that series, and he wasn't able to do it. He came out last, and he failed right after failing in Code S as well. So a lot of stress on him last season, but I think he's probably gotten rid of that. He's doing really well in the OSL right now.
I probably think that MVP is going to have a really hard time today. They proved in the past that, especially in the Team League, they are very strong. They always have players that you might not expect stepping it up in the booth and actually just tearing it up, winning game after game for the team in the Team League. But right now we have StarTale with such an amazing roster. And personally, I think that StarTale and LGIM are probably the strongest teams that we have this season. Yeah. If you just look at the name of the players out there.
I think so too. If you look at MVP, it looks like Epic's Open in a way. You look at them and you're like, they have a bunch of players that aren't in Code S or even in Code A, but they're really good in Team League and they make the best decisions possible. You know, they use the players they have with smart choices, and I think that's one of the reasons why they are able to do so well.
And production, I did not catch that.
Oh, Code S finals on there. Okay. Sneaking up on us. By the way, don't forget about that. It's going to, of course, be in the COEX, which is at Samsung Station. If you're in Seoul, if you're not in Seoul and you're going to come to Seoul, really easy to find. It's a big mall, and it's going to be epic, so definitely come down. If you haven't planned to yet, you're going to get on that.
And the first map today is actually going to be Entombed Valley.
Yes.
And that's something that I just saw for the first time. We already have a few information about the players today that are starting. That will, of course, be revealed a little bit later, but it's definitely going to be a good match. Here we have the teams, though.
Yep. Let's introduce these teams. First out, coming is StarTale.
Just look at these players. We have Bomber, Parting, Squirtle in the back, Life, of course. Curious is there. It's just incredible. This team is so strong these days.
And, of course, big name sponsor with Red Bull there. International sponsor to have. Great to have for your team. And this team has just been growing and growing, getting stronger and stronger, especially recently. Really excited. This season could be their best season yet.
Yeah, it definitely could be. I said it in the past, and I'm saying it again. I really hope that we are seeing a final between StarTale and GIM. I feel like this would be a most incredible match.
Yeah. Well, there they all are, setting up and ready to go. Their roster is massive. One of the largest, if not the largest roster in Team League. That bench is going to be packed I don't even know if they can all fit. They might have to stand a little bit or sit in those laps.
They don't have all their players here, so they will definitely fit today. But the thing is that they are up against a pretty tough opponent in Team League. If you look at the individual names, as I mentioned before, it looks a little bit lopsided, but in Team League, MVP was always tearing it up. Here we have the StarTale roster, though.
Yep.
Starting things up with the Terrans, Bomber, Hax, Sound, and Sparta.
And next up, we have, of course, Squirtle and Parting, two excellent Protoss players. Wouldn't want to have to face either of them.
And the Zerg, Suoshin, Curious, Pet, and Life. Of course, one of the things that we've seen in Code A already is that Sparta was able to advance over an ST. That was a pretty intense series.
Yeah. Of course, Pet being one of the ZenX players who came over as well. We talked about Life already, and everybody knows Suho Shen just recently dropped out of Code A.
Yeah, we're not quite sure how his future will hold. If he will actually stick with pro gaming, if he will retire.
Yeah, in fact, I don't think he's here.
No, he's not.
Yeah, I didn't see him on there, so. The only person, there's like one person hiding at the top left, and I don't know who that is. Secret.
Top left, that was where Life was earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's him.
It's a mystery player back there. It's like a new StarTale player we don't know about. But anyways, here is MVP. Another team with a pretty strong lineup. There's Keen there on the right side.
Yeah, led by Keen, of course. One of the players that we already saw earlier is the Protoss player, is Tails. Always good for a winner too. And DRG as well. This is going to be very, very tough today for them, though, I feel.
MVP is a team that has so many players that you see their names and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that one time Tails did that one strategy. I remember that one time Monster played like that.
You know, to be honest, they have players like Vampire, they have players like SC. There are so many good players on this lineup. And if they are in very good shape in a specific day like this, they can definitely win 2 or 3 games. And then suddenly everything just completely changes. Team League has such a dynamic that anything is possible.
You know, I feel like one of the strengths of their team is that they are so good at preparing strategies that work in almost any scenario, and they're not as good as preparing for longer-term matches like individual leagues. That's why I think so many MVP players don't do well in individual leagues, but do well in team league. Here is, of course, their roster, starting with the Zergs. Dongregoo is captain.
Yep, here they are, DRG, Sniper, and Monster. All of those guys are really strong. Sniper showed this just recently as well.
And our Terrans, Keen, SC, and Noblesse, all three of those very old school StarCraft 2 players. And last but not least, Protoss is Tails, Lure, Finale, and Vampire, all of them having their own unique style. Very strong players to face.
Yeah, today is definitely going to be good.
Yeah, it certainly will. I think that even with the addition of Killer being on the roster now, they've got the ability to do so much. Their team, you know, like we said earlier, has a lot of, it's got like half the number of total players, but if you just look at that bench alone, there's still a ton of people here. Like you said, not 24 people are going to sit on that bench, that's never going to happen, but look at that roster. You see so many familiar faces, so many players who you know can come out and do that snipe strategy, who can play the long games. Players like Keen, who aren't always consistent, but when they come through for their team, they really do it well.
Yeah, the lobby is already set up and the 2 players joined, so I guess we'll have a camera shot of them fairly soon. I can already tell you this much, the first game today is going to be a mirror match. Yes. And here we have the starting player for StarTale. Is the one player in the StarTale team that definitely works the hardest, has the most games played per day. It is Bomber.
Yep, Bomber, a great player, really well respected by his fans, loves his celebration. Gotten several all kills in the past. He's 1.31% overall, as he did lose a lot more matches recently, but he is a great starting player. You know, when you send out the captain in the jacket into the booth, he's the only one, I don't know if you guys know, the only one wearing the jacket. Wears it, he comes out, he's the first player in the booth, he leads the charge. That's a good feeling as a team saying, yeah, my captain is good enough to actually beat anyone he faces, and then just continue to start this lead for our team, build that momentum.
Bomber himself is not too happy with his performance in the individual leagues. That's something that he has stressed more than once. We'll talk about it a little bit later, about his recent history in the GSTL in Code S and Code A. First, we have a look at his opponent, though. Another Terran player. It is actually SC.
I did not expect SC to start here. That's a little bit surprising to me. I think that he is going to be such a great player in the future if he continues to play. This guy, do you remember the round of 4 match him versus Nesty from way back when? I remember watching him play, and he does the parade push of Marines across the map in TVZ, revolutionized the way certain matchups are played with how much pressure he puts on, and in TVT he's very aggressive as well. He's got a lot of raw talent, and I feel like it hasn't even been fully processed yet because he has to go on medical leave so often because of his condition. It's actually a sad story. I really think this guy could be one of the best players in the world, easily.
He is actually struggling a little bit in Team League. In the last season, he came out once for MVP and he lost to Puzzle. In the first season this year, we had him lose to Curious. He was able to win against Squirtle, though. And just in the individual leagues that we had in WCS Korea, for example, he lost to Jaedong, he also lost to Parting. So this is a little bit of the story that we had with SC just recently, and of course this game is a chance for him to just redeem himself, to make, I don't want to say a splash, but just to make an impression once again and just to throw his name out there.
Yeah.
Toon Valley is the map for this TVT, so it won't be used later for Zerg versus Protoss. This is the scenario that we usually end up with if it's not the starting map.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of sad for Frost players out there. They might have had some strategies planned, or at least wanted to use some before the map was announced. Map is loading now, Terran versus Terran. But we see SC's aggressive style. What is Bomber going to do?
And here we are about to start the game. I hope you're ready, guys. This is the GSTL. We have StarTale up against MVP. This match is, of course, brought to you by Color and Wolf. Let's get ready for game number 1 on Toon Valley.
3, 2, 1, go! Feed my motor, burning tires.
Let's get ready to rumble. StarTale versus MVP, and our first match has been started. To the bottom right, we have the StarTale player in pink. He has his dog with him at the studio. Yes.
StarTale, Bubble!
I don't think I've ever seen someone play in the GSL as pink before this time. I may be mistaken, but I can't recall.
I can't remember it either. Might be the first time, indeed.
Code A champion, of course, in 2011, GSL May, back when you used to have Code A champions.
To the top right, we have his opponent. In the blue, a fellow Terran player. Very strong one indeed. He is starting for MVP, and his ID is...
MVP, SC!
A very vocal fan in the crowd for him. I mean, there were a lot of fans, but she screamed quite loudly. Now, both players here have the opportunity to take gas, but I think on this map with the secondary ramp the way it is, and especially considering neither of them have done so at this point, maybe both just go for unrexed expand. Actually, Bomber getting his gas a little bit late here. A very interesting scouting pattern by SC. In fact, he may actually make a second barracks. I wonder what his plan is here. His scouting pattern is pretty weird. He went all the way around the watchtower. This is one way to hide your SCV. Most people go to the middle.
Yeah. Definitely true, and at this point, actually, what I wanted to stress out a little bit earlier is that we had Former perform in the recent past. He was in Code S, he lost to Gumiho and in a Terran Mirror match, and he also lost to DRG. But then in Code A in the first round, he had to face Baby, and Baby played so well in the Code A qualifier that a lot of people thought Former would have a lot of problems against him. And the Casper player was really proving out to be a very strong opponent. It was a tough match. In the end, Former was able to edge out a 2-1 win over his opponent and is now in the second round of Code A. He might end up in Code S once again. Yeah. But that's where he wants to be. He wants to get back into Code S. He was not too happy with his performance in the Code S group.
It was a really close match against Baby. I definitely recommend watching those VODs, especially if you're either a Bomber or a Baby fan.
You know, I actually feel like Former went to his coach and said, hey, listen up, I'm not too happy with how I did in the individual league. Can you please set me up as the starting player? I want to make an impression today. Definitely want to show on camera, on stream, that I am still out there, that the recent results that I had don't reflect how strong I actually am.
Yeah, I bet you're exactly right. Plus, Bomber has gotten all kills in the past. He may be hoping he can do that again. He leads the charge. He's got the best chance of getting that initial all kill, not even losing a single point for his team. Right now, we have a reactor expand coming out of Bomber. It's kind of a strange way to play this. It's not very common anymore, but it does still get used from time to time, where he's just made a reactor on his barracks, going to reactor out a few Marines, and will possibly switch his factory depending on what he wants to do later. He may just leave it. But he took gas and then didn't use it to be aggressive on his opponent. He didn't try to get banshees, didn't try to go for a fast drop. And as a result, SC has actually had his command center up for much longer. He's put it on the low ground, he's already mining from it, and he's got his second orbital way faster.
Yeah, so far we have a very passive opening here. None of these players is putting on any kind of early aggression. They have cross position and Entombed Valor, which is of course also one of the reasons why these strategies are being played and the players are not too overly aggressive. Currently, with the bunker already on the low ground, is SC and our StarTale player at the bottom right, just being scanned. So SC making sure that he has all the scouting information that he needs in order to anticipate what's coming next.
You know, with the build that SC has chosen, he has to make that bunker to feel safe. The Bomber, on the other hand, doesn't need it. He's got so much more unit production since he got his command center later. And with the way that he's lined this up, he got so much extra Marine production from that reactor before the factory was done. He actually has already 8 Marines versus the 3 of SC. So if SC moves out on the map for any reason, Bomber could do a lot of damage. He's just going to poke here with the bunker there. If he sneaks his Hellions by, he can do damage, but otherwise this just isn't going to be too effective.
He has the first medevac coming out, so he can start to just elevate in his opponent's base if he sees an opening. If he finds a spot that is not covered by SC, where his opponent does not see what's going on, he might decide to just elevate, for example, the Hellions into the main base, or the Marines, and pressure at the front door, just trying to draw all these units out to make the main base vulnerable. We'll find out soon enough. First of all, we have the Hellions of SC sneaking out and past the army of Bomber.
Yeah, see, this is what I was talking about. If SC moves out for any reason, he might be in trouble, because even to send his units back here is going to be very difficult. It's all going to come down to the micro in this situation. Oh, he's going up to the third base. And Bomber is not going to wait. He actually runs up right now. The Hellions doing so much damage, they're repairing SCVs.
The SCVs are already gone, and so is the bunker. The rest of the SCVs are being pulled way too late, and suddenly SC finds himself down at 50 supply. The Hellions are trying to get into the main base in order to control the choke point, and Bomber doing a really good job here with this early game harass.
Yeah, and now he's trying to get in position with the Hellions on the high ground to take out some of these Marines. Does push it back, at least for now. That Viking is so important here. He's going to be able to zone out the medevac with that. Without the medevac, he can't pick off the depots on the high ground.
That depot, is it actually dying? I don't think he repairs.
He just got the SCV standing on top of it. The depot is burning on top of the ramp. It's not being repaired at all. He's gonna lose it. It's got 15 hit points left.
It looks like he misclicked. The depot is burning down as we speak. Boom! And now he's supply block. Yeah.
This is a tragic situation for SC actually. Bomber now ripping through that first Hellion, and even though all of his Hellions are in low hit points, he's just got the better concave here. He's got more of them in general.
And he has the better economy at home. He can't just keep up his production. Now he's going into the main base. It looks like SC might be out of luck here. He pulls the SCV. He pulls everything. He's losing his reactor as well.
I think this is going to be it. He's losing too many SCVs here. They're already so low on hit points. Even if he holds here, the damage has already been done. And like you said, he's just got a much better economy at home. He has a second factory.
17 workers have been killed. Back at home, Bomber, he keeps producing SCVs, he gets more Vikings, he gets Hellions. He is in such an incredible position right now. We currently have him with 1,200 resources lost. SC lost 2,000. He lost so many SCVs. He's now down to 24 against 42. This is insanity. Stim is coming up for SC, but he needs a miracle in order to come back in this game.
Yeah, he certainly does. Right now, Bomber is going into that mech composition with the third command center on the way. He's got the factories ready and set up. He's getting the Infernal Pre-Igniter upgrade. He already has a total of 9 Hellions on the map. And with those Hellions, he's going to be able to just dominate SC. SC will never be able to move out safely. He'll never be able to take a third.
He has this drop at the bottom, though, and drop play is the one thing that might bring him back into the game. It's a little bit unlikely, but if Bomber doesn't pay attention to his mineral lines and is suddenly losing too many harvesters on his own, then SC might be able to get back into the game, but it's just such a tough thing to pull off, and suddenly here we are.
He's going to try for it. 3 Hellions are pretty scary, but he's just trapped and isolated here already. He's just not able to maximize the AoE damage. Now he's getting a little bit better hits, but picks up here, and only 4 workers killed. Not a whole lot done here.
Bomber has to be careful, though. His Hellions are moving out once again. He only leaves 2. That's enough for now. And the Viking is out in time to pressure the Viking and kill it.
Yeah, he will take out that medevac. The last Hellion drops out to die, and SC is further behind now than he once was. Now, the one advantage that he does have, which is only slight, is 5-3 Viking count. He will have the air control, but there's a Raven out, so that kind of neglects that. We'll see what he's got planned here. I mean, this is not the point of the game where you can try to be like, well, I'm behind, so I'm going to get the air control to make Banshees. He doesn't quite have the economy to really support that and make that type of switch.
He builds a double command center now. He wants to get a little bit ahead in economy, trying to take a bit of a risk here because he knows that he's so far behind. In total, it's 40 supply already, and of course, Bomber is beginning for mech here, whereas MVP SC has the buyer composition on the move, but this is just way too much. The Raven has to be careful, though. It dies.
What a weird choice. I thought he would use point defense drone there earlier to save his Vikings, but he didn't. Now these Vikings were a bit of an annoyance. He's going to actually have to deflect them with Hellions. They're not going to be killed either. This is what I'm talking about. It's a slight advantage. But Bomber didn't react in time with the point defense drone, so now he has to deal with these Vikings. He can't really afford to land them because he's going to lose them if he does so, but he's just going to float around. He's going to camp the starport. Any unit that comes out of the starport will be destroyed, and this is a great way to punish someone who doesn't have anti-air because they're going
He does it really, really smart. He splits his Vikings. He wants to make sure that he can use the assault mode in order to take down Harvesters, and this is really well done. But now the Thor is out, and the Thor will be able to do quite a lot of damage if it's in range. It currently doesn't look like it, but
just putting on a lot of pressure here, and this is exactly what he needs to do while he's taking this risk with the extra command centers that he's made. Because if Bomber moves out, he's just going to die.
He has this one advantage that he talked about earlier, and he is putting it to some good use, but on the other hand, Bomber is just getting more and more units. He has such an incredible army supply now with 76 up to 55. His upgrades are decent, and this mech composition is just so strong. It's getting its own 4th base, and now the StarTale player is moving across the map, trying to defend here with the Blue Flame Hellions that he has, and 1 siege tank. That's enough to repel the Vikings.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was getting into, is that Bomber could just move out and kill him if he leaves just 1 siege tank at home, and that's exactly what he's doing here. Moving out, going to the 3rd base first, he scans, and he's like, oh, there's no 3rd base there, so I don't have to kill you now. I'm just going to poke a little bit and go back. Looks like he just wants to wait until max, which is usually how mech players on this map do. They don't move out until they're max. They add extra factories to that 3rd base, as you can see here.
Bomber is still in a great spot here, and one thing that he definitely did in the past is that when here we have a small attack trying to take down these Thors, and this is going to work because they're completely exposed. He cannot afford to lose Thors like this.
Yeah.
The one problem that Bomber had in the past, that was something that was especially true in Las Vegas when we had the match between StarTale and the Prime team, was that sometimes he thinks he is so far ahead in the game that he can drop mana mules, that he can get a little bit too complacent, and then suddenly he's losing the game. So I feel this is one of the reasons why he actually moved back and did not try to commit to the attack.
Yeah, I think you're right. By the way, the situation that has been set up here, it depends on how SC does this. Now, SC's got 3 dropships coming to the right side. If he waits with them until Bomber moves out, I think that would be the best choice. If he just tries to go in right now, it's going to be futile, and that's exactly what he's doing, I think. He's just waiting. No, he really wants to try to make this work, but there's a lot of defense set up here. He's still got so many units at home. This just isn't necessarily going to be effective.
But the siege tanks are a little bit out of position. He has to reposition them first. And SC is making this really happen. It plays a great game.
Yeah,
it's just really nice to see how well he's able to execute all this pressure. He is still behind, but he's slowly and steadily catching up and getting into a little bit of a better position.
Yeah, and he's actually going to attack into here where there's no sieged up tanks. This could be great. Now he's going to have the better concave at the 3rd base as well. He's totally zoned out this location. To come through here, he's going to lose so many Hellions. Yeah, he will be able to defend, but not cost efficiently.
Yeah, his siege tanks were not sieged up, and now Bomber is paying the price. So many units already dead and dying. 30 SCVs have been killed by SC over the course of this game. By now he's in a much better spot when it comes down to the workers killed than his opponent. And Bomber is losing his advantage here. SC is really starting this comeback. He's playing this so well.
And he's just doing little things like picking up 2 Mirars and picking off an SCV. Look at all those non-mining workers right now. While SC has his 3rd base up, he did make that extra orbital, which put him into a pretty good position SCV-wise after all the harassment he's done as well. It's now 58 to 57. Very even there. he could actually try to move over and take a fourth since he's got the more mobile army, the more aggressive army. He's kind of got Bomber locked down in his base right now.
Bomber just was completely thrown off guard here. The entire it didn't really fall apart, but it's like he was shaking and he needs to stabilize. If he stabilizes and executes it well, then he is still in a position where he can put on the pressure. And now he's starting to move out. But just the entire time, how has he used this? How he used the Viking advantage that he had. He went for the assault mode, how he picked off those small mistakes by Bomber that he always used in order to get a little bit closer to his opponent.
He's doing it again. He stims here. He sees the army's out of position. He's got the watchtower right now. But Bomber reacts very quickly and turns around. This is going to do a little bit of damage, but the Hellions are just so well upgraded. +2 on those Blue Flame Hellions. Just rips through everything. He basically doesn't get anything except the missile turret here. And Bomber is getting closer and closer to that dangerous maxed out army.
One of the big stories here is, of course, that MVP SC, even though he's getting a little bit closer to Bomber, is not on the same upgrade. With Mech, those upgrades are slow, but he already has them, whereas the 1-1 is not even finished for SC. So this is the big story. SC is doing a great job at trying to come back into this game, but when it comes down to the tech, he is still far behind, and Bomber is using this. He's maxing out now, and he's moving across the map, defending against this small attack to the bottom left, and at the same time trying to get his mech composition into a good spot, in a good position to attack the third base.
You know, Bomber keeps scanning that location. He wants to see how many units are there. Can he just break through? Can he brute force his way in? He's scanned, he decided, yes, I can. Drop some point defense drones here to protect his Hellions. Every single SCV should die here.
Yes.
And Bomber is just, he cannot be deflected. SC is out of units. He was too low in economy for too long. Bomber made the better composition. He was ahead and just played safely. He didn't take any gambles. There's the Bomber Mules we all know.
SC playing it well, but the disadvantage in the early game when Bomber executed his first attack was just too big. The early game advantage for Bomber was so huge. He wins the game. GG. Well done by Bomber, and the first point now for StarTale.
A very excellently played game by SC though. He knew he was behind and took every calculated risk possible in the book. He actually opened the book of calculated risks, and it wasn't even calculated risk for dummies, it was like calculated risk for geniuses, and he was reading that book and he's like, okay, I see this is where I should drop my medevacs, this is how I should put pressure on. But Bomber in the end, he just didn't fall to it. You know, he defended so well, he reacted so quickly every time.
Bomber's first attack just was really, really well executed, and of course he also had a bit of luck as the Hellions were out of the main base, and this was one of the problems that SC definitely had. Then the Hellions in a perfect spot to kill every single SCV that tried to repair the bunker. Therefore the bunker was going down. The rest of the SCVs that he pulled was not there in time to save the structure, and he had such a hard time of defending, and later on he actually moved his not consciously, but his SCVs moved into the choke point, up to the ramp, and then suddenly all those Hellions just had a field day.
Yeah, it was pretty nasty. I mean, I said it actually right before it happened. I said, if SC moves out for any reason with his Hellions, then he's probably going to lose too much here. Now, who comes out next? Who do you want to fight Bomber with? Bomber is the type of player, we've talked about this before, he's so dangerous if he gets that that snowball effect. You know, if he wins the first game, it's like, oh, okay, and then he wins the second game, it's like, whoa, can anyone stop this guy? The more games he wins, the stronger he seems to be.
We could definitely see a Zerg player right now. We have DRG is someone that I would not expect as a second player,
Monster,
but we still have
though, for example.
Sniper, Monster.
Yeah.
One of the two of them could definitely be our next player, but of course the MVP coach will have to make a decision here who he sends out now, because as Wolf already said, if Bomber gains momentum, then it's really, really hard to stop him, and there are so many good players on the StarTale bench that you have to face later on, so you want to take a player like Bomber out early. And here he is, it is Sniper.
I think a great choice, because this guy has been getting better and better. I feel like he's still kind of under the radar to a lot of people, but he's the type of person who can actually, no pun intended, snipe Bomber out here. If he takes him out early, then that snowball effect that we talked about just doesn't happen. You cannot just say, well, I don't know, maybe Monster can do it, but I'm just going to throw him in there, don't know. No, you got to pick out someone who is definitely doing well right now. He's on top of his game, and that's Sniper. Best choice to make here, I think.
It's going to be a great game between the two of them. Before we head into the match, we are of course having a 5-minute break and then an interview with the coaches. But for now, Sniper, of course, he's currently, well, in Code S. He lost to Hart, he won against Naniwa, and he was also losing to Squirtle. But right now, we have him here at the GSTL in the booth in the second game. StarTale against MVP. Bomber versus Sniper will be played after we are back with a 5-minute break.
she wants.